o'clock. And this is the Mars Society Ambassador Briefing. I'm James Melton, Chief Ambassador for the Mars Society. And the mission for the Mars Society is to serve as a professional team of people dedicated to elevating public awareness of our vision to land humans on Mars within this decade and begin settling the red planet. No little task, of course, but it's important. We have James Burke joining us here today in just a little bit, and he's going to give us an update on the Mars Technology Institute. And then Rushi will talk a little about her experience and why she joined the Mars Society and what prompted her to do that. Well, we have a couple of extra moments before James appears. Here's Ashton Zeth. Ashton is, of course, the host of the Red Planet Live podcast. So that's good. We'll ask her if she'd give us a little briefing on astronaut Jose Hernandez's program coming up. Let me quote Elon Musk, move back a few years when he and Robert Zubrin were in Boca Chica and they were talking about various things. And Elon put it this way. He said, there have to be reasons that we want to get up in the morning and we want to live. We want to think that the future is going to be better than today, that it's going to be a bright day. Otherwise, it's not. And then he said, if we operate with extreme urgency, we have a chance of making life multiplanetary. Still just a chance, not for sure. If we don't operate with extreme urgency, the chance of making life multiplanetary is probably zero. Then he went on to say, if the future does not include being out there among the stars and making life multiplanetary, I find that incredibly depressing. He said, now you can either watch it happen or you can be part of it. I like that concept because it introduces the Mars Technology Institute, which is probably one of the most significant programs that the Mars Society has ever initiated and will help us move with extreme urgency toward our goal of settling Mars. So because we have a lot to cover today, without any further ado, I would like to, for those of you who don't know our executive director, James Burke, and there may be some of you on here like Arushi and our newest ambassador, James Burke had just arrived. He's sitting down now. I feel like I'm watching him getting prepared. And here is the Mars Technology Institute patch. Excellent. James, do me a favor. Would you take some time and explain a little bit about how that program is coming along, what your involvement is, and just fill us in on the details. You're privy to everything because you're running the show with Dr. Robert Zubrin. So fill us in on the blanks.
I am right in the deep end of it all, yes.
Yeah.
So we've had a really successful crowdfunding campaign for this Mars Technology Institute initiative in the last 4 months. Starting at our conference banquet back at Arizona State in October, we began raising money for this initiative, and it's designed to create a new institute that will help pioneer the technologies and the science that we need to settle Mars. But at the same time, helping people on Earth by commercializing these discoveries and these technologies so that they turn into companies that then feed back into MTI. So this is essentially, we're creating an innovation engine and a financial engine that can help us get to Mars, that can help us privately settle Mars. And so in the last 4 months, we've successfully raised $150,000 for this initiative. It's been the most successful crowdfunding campaign the Mars Society has ever done. And we're currently in the process of starting up a biotech project and an AI project as part of MTI. And for both of those, we're actively seeking investors to invest in those two projects. So we're not publicly talking about them in a ton of detail right now because there are some really innovative ideas that in there, but I will give you a little bit of a high level of each one. And we are going to go into more detail with the MTI founders at our first executive briefing, which will be in March.
Okay.
And then after that, more information will come out for everyone else as well shortly after that. But we wanted to kind of give the founders a little bit of an exclusive view into what we're doing. But for the benefit of you guys, just at a high level, we have a biotech project where we hope to chemically create food, chemically create protein, which then could be the protein that's created chemically using methane could be used to then feed fish, for example, that maybe the humans on Mars eat the fish, or other livestock that the humans on Mars would eat. So we're developing basically a new process in mass to create protein that then could be used to create products. You can think of examples like Beyond Meat and Impossible Meat, but also there's a product called Vegemite that's popular in Australia. That's
Vegemite.
Vegemite.
Okay.
Yeah, look that up.
I
So,
will.
so basically that's what we're starting to do for biotech. There's a specific idea there where we're trying to form a company and go forward with that and get investment. And on the AI side, I'm actually leading the AI project, and we're trying to grow the team right now here in Seattle, where I live. I'm talking to folks that I used to work with at Microsoft, for example. But we're also looking at other technologies besides just the Chat GPT, OpenAI set of technologies that Microsoft is associated with. We've historically been a Google shop, the Mars Society. On the IT side, we have Google accounts and we use a lot of Google services in general. And so Google has a pretty good AI offering as well called Gemini that we're investigating. But the idea with the AI project is this would be like something that could help you on Mars. If you needed to fix something or research something, it's like a generalist specialist that could assist you to do anything, is the high level idea. I'm not going to go into specifics. You guys will see when we announce kind of some of the branding choices we've made, things like that, that maybe will make this a popular mainstream thing someday.
Okay. Yeah.
But the idea is that we're forming an AI assistant that would help you while you're on Mars to do anything. So, for example, fix your gear, research how to do something with you, talk about different scientific technologies and the controversies around them. So we'll have more to say on that project, but that at a high level, that's what we're working on is a system that would help augment a human being that's in space. And there's specific applications we're going to do first, but that's the long-term goal.
Okay.
So those are the two, like Mars Technology Institute, though, is ultimately going to be an engine that's creating a bunch of companies. These are just the first two ideas we're working on. But we ultimately hope to have university partners, we're actually talking to folks here in the Seattle area about possibly getting lab space or office space donated by one of the universities or municipalities that we're talking to here. And so we hope that this ultimately, the Mars Technology Institute, is part of a wide network of institutions like universities and corporate partners and governmental partners that are helping us really create a bunch of companies and incubate them and accelerate them. We hope some of them are based in Seattle. We hope some of them are based in Arizona, for example, where we also have partners. Denver as well. You can really name anywhere in the world that we can potentially find partners to work with on MTI. But essentially that's where we're at right now. It's about 4 months into what we're doing. And we just finished up the crowdfunding campaign, very successful. Total raise was 150,000. And so we're off and running. And essentially we're going to spend that money to try to get 1 million or 2 million in one of these projects. So that's essentially what, we're following on now with trying to have those investor conversations and putting together good demos and pitch decks, things like that. So it's been pretty exciting, but I definitely agree. This is like the biggest thing the Mars Society has ever done. I think this is ultimately going to be something that transforms the Mars Society by association because of how much traction it's getting. So
thank you, James. Can you open a little window to the third prong of the focus of the MTI? You've got your biotechnology, biochemistry aspect. You've got
yes,
your AI, and then of course that's the energy element. Just if you could
yeah.
just paint just a little perspective of, are we talking nuclear power? Are we talking fission, fusion? Or what are we doing with that?
There's a lot of potential partners that are working on nuclear infusion just in Seattle. Like I can rattle off 4 companies here in Seattle that are all startups that have funding that are working on nuclear infusion that potentially could have applications for Mars propulsion and operations on the surface. So we're not currently, we don't like have a signed LOI with any of these companies, but we've been talking to them. And like one of them I can mention is called Ultra Safe Nuclear Corporation, UNSC. And I was having, I was meeting with the biz dev director of that company, and he was telling me that there's parts of what they developed that they're not commercializing, and they'd be happy to work with a partner like the Mars Technology Institute to go figure out how some of that could be, commercialized and startup companies created out of what they've already discovered with what they're doing for a small nuclear reactor. So, and some of the fuel systems that they're using for that. So there's just so many opportunities to go after in that area. And there's some great companies we want to work with. One of the things Robert was talking about early on with this area for MTI was Stirling engines is a big area that people could work in. Stirling engines could potentially be an innovation that is good for not only Earth but Mars. So
excellent, excellent. James, thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. We are going to follow that aggressively, because talk about what Robert Zubrin and Elon Musk were discussing in Boca Chica is extreme urgency is in fact our focus and needs to be. And I sincerely believe that what you're on to right here is probably the most fruitful, aggressive step forward in reaching our vision of humans on Mars and settling the red planet than has ever been done before. So let's not all take this lightly. Let's give all the support we can to this. And that's another reason I wanted James to present some ideas. Hope you're taking notes so that in your presentations, you can at least allude to the fact that this is what we're doing and spark the interest of the people. All right, again.
I gotta say, like we rallied our community for this campaign and they showed up. Like everyone showed up to support us so far with this. And it's been, so we're gonna definitely keep going with what we're doing. It's been very exciting so far, and we look forward to.
Well, I got my autographed copy.
And that's coming out in like a week too. So
yeah, that's good. That's good. Advanced copies were fun. So thank you. There are a few other people that we want to chat with. Hi, Ashton. And you're one of them. And then I'm going to talk with Ashton for a minute, and then we're going to talk with Rushi, and then we're going to talk with Ed Heisler. A few things coming up here. So Ashton, please. Jose Hernandez is your next guest, astronaut Jose Hernandez. I don't want you to have to spill the beans on what's going on your podcast coming up here on the date escapes me, but it's next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. The 27th. Okay.
Jose is going to be in London next week, so we've pushed it out a week. We don't typically do that. We want to remain consistent, but this time it will be on the 27th.
Okay, excellent. 27th. Thanks for mentioning that. And just give us a little thumbnail of who Jose is and how you located him.
Yeah, so Jose Hernandez is a former NASA astronaut. His story is incredibly inspiring because he was a young migrant farmer as a child, and he grew up to obviously become an astronaut. His story is told in a new movie that just came out called A Million Miles Away, which is on Amazon Prime. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's very touching, and it's a heartwarming story. So his son is also wanting to become an astronaut and currently a PhD student, and did a mission at MDRS. So next episode will feature both Jose Hernandez and his son, Julio. And we're going to be talking about, his life, how he became an astronaut, and how his son is walking in his father's footsteps and is going to try to do the same thing and become an astronaut.
Excellent. Well, we'll all be watching. I would like to, everyone here gets Ashton's emails, and it's noted on the Mars Society newsletter. So tune in. Not only does Ashton do a great job, she brings on marvelous guests that you don't normally get a chance to connect with. So thank you for that and all the work you're doing, Ashton. I do really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, register, ask some questions. We'll be taking audience questions.
Yeah, you do need to register in advance for this podcast. So that's important. It's one of the what is it called? Eventbrite?
Eventbrite, yep. I'll grab the link right now and I'll paste it in the chat.
Yeah, that's good. All right, now we have one of our newest ambassadors. Arushi and I had a wonderful conversation a week ago yesterday, and she is a student at Texas A&M. She's going for her master's in electrical engineering, and I've asked her to step forward and give us a little insight about herself, how she became acquainted with the Mars Society, and what inspired her to step forward to make a difference as an ambassador. So Arushi, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. You have the floor for whatever you might need to say. We're all eager to listen.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I think my connection with Mars Society goes way back. I've been acquainted with Mars Society, I think 6 years before. And I think it was my partner in crime, as in whenever I used to talk about projects related to Mars, people used to look at me like I'm crazy. So I used to show the articles and the videos that were posted on Mars Society's different social media accounts and all of that, so that people would believe that there is some credibility to my projects, to my ideas. So it has been my partner since then. For a little bit about my background, so I've been an avionics engineer. I've worked on launch vehicles for small satellites for the last 4 years. But then I decided to do my master's in electrical engineering. And for the few months, I've been working on quite a few projects related to Mars. One of them is I'm trying to look at organic materials for semiconductor manufacturing. So I've been working with the electrical characterization of perovskite materials, like it's a type of material that can be used for solar cells. And it can be manufactured, like there is a possibility of manufacturing those solar cells on moon base or Mars base. So we don't have to manufacture from Earth and take it. We can easily manufacture them in space. So I'm currently working towards that. It's a far way from that, but I'm currently working towards that. And so for why I wanted to join Mars Society, and so
we've lost a little bit of your sound.
Hello.
There we go.
The goal behind joining Mars Society was to spread awareness about why we need to look, or why we need to dream about this. make people realize that this is not something futile to do. Like we need to work on a dream, and we need to work on a dream to make humans multiplanetary. And also for people to realize that settlement on Mars is not only researchers' job or scientists' job or engineers' job. It involves a lot of different people. A lot of different people from all backgrounds, from all fields, have to come together to make it possible. So I'm currently in process of opening up a chapter in my university, Texas A&M, so that I can make all the people come together, just work on different ideas related to Mars settlement, and that would involve people from all the background, so so that they can come together, think of different ideas, and work on different projects. So that is where I want to start. I would eventually want to also go around and present in other colleges and in other universities to make people follow the same path. So I guess that is where I started. And I'm so happy to be among you guys. And I would love to hear different stories from you as well, from all the ambassadors. I'm really excited to join. Thank you so much.
Arushi, we are more than excited to have you on board. It's a real pleasure. We're honored that you're participating and stepping forward, especially with the level of education you have and how you plan on delivering this information. I think it's wonderful. Regarding forming some kind of a organization or group at your Texas A&M, we're actually Jonas Nahr is on, and he is with the Thunderbird School of Global Management and Leadership in Arizona. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jonas. Are you Jonas? You can unmute yourself. You are holding your very first, in partnership with the Mars Society and the Thunderbird Global Leadership on Thursday. Is that correct?
Hi everyone. Yeah, that's correct. James. The launch event is gonna be coming Friday. I'm gonna drop a link in the chat. Feel free to exploit the launch event details on LinkedIn, the group's chapters LinkedIn. So I think James and I have been talking about this since September 2022, and
Yes.
Finally it's happening. So Arushi, I think it begins with an idea and through implementation. Currently, all the students are excited, the alumni community, faculty, staff. We have the support of the university community, and I think it's a great initiative. So I highly encourage you to keep on the good work, and trust me, that the support you made would be overwhelming, and the excitement, the enthusiasm, everyone is just excited whenever they hear about Mars, becoming multi-planetary species. And I know Dr. Zubrin is going to be at the launch event, and I think James Burke as well, James Melton, and a few folks from the Thunderbird community and ASC community and NASA. So I mean, it's big, and this is just an example of what happened on my alma mater, Thunderbird School of Global Management, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be any different from yours.
So you two can communicate if you transfer information back and forth or put it on the chat line here. Let me just open up my chat line just so I have that. Just one moment, please. There we go. Okay. Yeah, just put it on the chat line, your connection, so you can talk with each other and benefit from each other's experience. That would be marvelous. So thank you very much on that. All right, we have our friend and Ambassador Ed Heisler, who is doing an outreach in many areas, one of which is he's organizing the Star Trek, our participation in the Star Trek convention in San Francisco. Ed, thanks for taking a moment. Just give us a brief capsulization of how that's coming along and what your expectancies are, and how you got Dr. Zubrin and all of us to participate.
Well, 2 years ago, can you hear me okay? Is my
We-
mic set?
we can
Okay,
hear you.
Great. Okay.
Spot on, yes.
2 years ago, we participated in the famous Las Vegas Star Trek convention for the first time, and it was terrific. As in discussions with the organizers, they invited us to have a speaker, and we found a pretty good one. Dr. Zubrin, I believe, he spoke. And we had a display, a literature display at the convention. Last year, we again attended to the convention. This time, we were given a separate room for our Mars virtual reality MDRS demonstration. And again, Dr. Zubrin addressed the convention. This year, something new happened. They're going to have their August convention in Vegas, and we'll be engaged in discussions with them to see how and in what way we can participate. But most importantly, this year they're having an early, not convention, but a gathering, a Star Trek gathering in San Francisco. Why San Francisco? Well, for one thing, there are a tremendous number of Star Trek supporters in San Francisco in what's known as Silicon Valley. And that ties in with our Mars Technical Institute, we think, Silicon Valley. I was amazed to find this out. In Silicon Valley, this is no exaggeration, they did a scientific study. There are 163,000 private investors who have at least 10 million in capital of people who like space exploration are looking for things to invest in, support. We have been invited once again to have a speaker at their San Francisco gathering, conference, event. It'll be Dr. Zubrin again, and to have a literature display there. And the literature display is being organized by our Northern California chapter. And we're working on setting that up as we speak, pretty much. Only one problem. Here's where maybe some of our ambassadors can help us out. Before we knew about the Star Trek event in San Francisco, our members in the Northern California chapter, they made a commitment to participate in a very important science discovery day. So some of their activists are going to be handling their table, their participation in that. They'll have some people available, but we could use some additional help in two ways. One, if there are any Star Trek ambassadors who are actually planning to be in the Bay Area sometime between March 8th and March 10th of this year, coming up next month, please come down and visit the Star Trek convention and maybe help us out at the table. We need some additional people to help at the table. And we have actually, if you have a problem, you want to come and participate, two things. One, if you're involved in some important, and all important, Mars Society activity in your local chapter, that has priority. Build your local chapter, recruit, get out to the public, your local chapter. Don't set that aside in order to come to San Francisco. Secondly, if you're available and you'd like to come in, it so happens we have a hotel room at the convention hotel, the Hyatt Regency near the airport. That's available. That we've already taken care of it. And if you come in and can help for a couple days that weekend, especially a Saturday, March 9th, we got a place for you to stay, a very nice place, the Hyatt Regency, no charge. Let's have that occupied by our Mars ambassador, and you can be of tremendous help at our display. We'd appreciate it. And if you need a little help, let me leave it at that. So if you're available between actually March 8th, 9th, or 10th, or the whole 3 days, I guess you could email me or Dr. Melton. May probably make it easier. I don't, either way.
It would be good to go to you. You're kind of the pivotal person on this.
Okay, because I'm keeping track of the volunteers overall. That would make sense. Email me, and when you could come, and then we can take it, discuss it from there. What you'd be doing, uh, where you'll be staying, stuff like that, and if you're if you're if you're unemployed and you're short of cash, you just have some loose change, we might be able to help out. Not first class, coach, on airfare getting there and back. Not first class, coach. And that's about it. Maybe
Let me make sure that was not first class.
not
That
first
was
class.
coach.
No, I don't
Okay.
fly first class. No.
They're
So
first class people. They're just flying coach.
or if you want to spend a week driving. No, but anyhow, you get the picture. But you got a place to stay, and a nice place, and it's right where the conventions or conference is being held. And our goal there is to make a lot of new friends and members and supporters for help our local chapter there. And then if we, I'm sure there are going to be some people from Silicon Valley who are going to be there. That's why they're having their gathering there, the Star Trek people. Maybe we'll make some good contacts, friends that would be interested in finding out more about our projects, especially the institute, the technological, our Mars Institute. Okay, that's it.
Excellent, Ed. Thank you very much for the recap. I appreciate all you're doing. We all
Ron?
do, and it will be an excellent program. People gather around Star Trek. There's a lot of Trekkies out there, and I believe there are a lot who would really want to take it a step further and go into the Mars Society. So that would be wonderful. And speaking of that, I want to thank you all for your activity forms that you're all sending back to me. You've got these. We're going to update the membership directory in March. So we have an extra day to get these activity sheets in. If you have a new photo that you like in the directory, if you have a new bio, like Arushi, you could create a bio, short bio in the directory. I think I may have mailed you a directory or emailed that to you. Just kind of use that as a guideline. We don't need a page, just a small, brief idea of who you are. And any photos that you have, a headshot, are very helpful. We will end the submission of those on the 29th of February. That's an extra day in this year just for you. So we'd like to open that door to you. And I'm going to mention a couple of things here because Arushi, you brought up something that I felt was valuable. How are you making the impact when you're talking to people in groups about the Mars Society? When you talk about going to Mars or placing humans on Mars, I mean, we want to drive the point home that we're not going to Mars to forsake Earth. We're going to Mars for humanity and discovery. And that's one of the key things. I heard a program recently by Jane Goodall, and I have a quote from Jane. She said, "Life is too precious to leave it all on one planet." I thought that was put so well. So humanity and discovery, and there are a lot of misconceptions out there about what we're doing and why we're doing it. James Burke brought something up as well. AI. AI can be used for plus or minus, for good or for ill. So how we are crafting our TV commercials, how we are crafting our video programs, how we are crafting what we say, I would like you to make sure you all have authentic information when you're delivering it to the general public. And not just take it for granted that it was on Facebook, therefore it's correct, or it was on Instagram, therefore it's got to be right. Or, I mean, even television presents a message sometimes that is not the most accurate. So be careful of that. We fall into misconceptions. I'm just going to give you one little example, which I think we almost all use. This is totally off the track, but it's really pointed. When I say we are in the year 2024 AD, if I were to say we are in the year, looking back at the year 200 BC, we would say that would be 200 years before Christ. Well, that's kind of the general feeling that BC means. And then we say 200 AD or 2024 AD. A lot of people misinterpret that to mean after death. That's not what it means. It's Anno Domini. It's Latin for the year of our Lord. So maybe you all knew that it was not after death, but many people look at it AD as after death. So that's a misconception that gets misconstrued every once in a while. And I'd like you to be accurate in what you're doing. Now, another thing that James Burke brought up, and I think this bears a little significance here, the energy aspect of MTI, and I'm going to get to the book in just a minute. This book I'm going to talk about it is something to talk about. One of the misconceptions about energy is that we need to find we have a depleted supply of energy. There is no short supply of energy. Energy is in abundance in our solar system, in our universe. What is in short supply is the knowledge of how to use, maintain, store, and function with the energy. What can we do with it? So we look at it as we need to find a way to create more energy. That's true, but energy is not in short supply, not at all. It's like the Stone Age did not end because we ran out of stones. The Stone Age ended because we found new ways to make tools out of metal, and we were in transition to make that happen. There's always an awkward stage, leaving petroleum products, for instance, to go to renewable sources of energy. So in a sense, transition is the key to discovering our evolving future. If we can look at it that way, I think that makes a lot of sense. All right. Let me, before I bring it all together here, who have I left out? What thoughts do you have? I do have some closing comments. We're not getting ready to close quite yet, but who has something they would like to share about what we've been talking about? Don't forget to unmute yourself. Anybody at all? Bill Carton.
Yeah,
in Oregon. You're still in Oregon, Bill?
I am until the Starship third test launch. Maybe I'll scoot down to Texas. I love Ron's background there, the rocket garden. But
Okay.
yeah, pretty much all of the activities of Mars society depends on Elon. We can't depend on NASA. That's my message as an evangelist to anybody who will listen. Watch what Elon's doing. Don't focus on Elon as a person. Just focus on 10,000 employees of SpaceX trying to get us off planet. And that's the exciting thing. Don't watch Artemis so much. Don't watch NASA. But when Elon gets the transports together, he needs more payload than just a methane factory. He needs more payloads. Who's going to fund them? Who's going to get a return on that investment? Who's motivated to go to Mars using Elon's transport? That's the next big question for me that I try to get people to think about.
What is it, 150 metric tons they can load in that Starship? Is that about what it is?
Yeah, and it goes up. Every week he has more changes to get more payload out of it. It's stunning. Just like Falcon 9 Rev 1 was totally superseded. Falcon 9 now with the enhancements in Rev 5, it took over half the payloads that would have needed to go um, on Falcon Heavy. So Falcon Heavy isn't launching as often as they expected, because Falcon 9 can do the heavy stuff now, even
Yes.
two sats to geosync.
Yes, excellent. Ed,
Anyway, Ed, hi.
well, thank you, Bill. Thank you very much for sharing that. And Ed, go ahead, right ahead. Yes.
Yeah. I think Bill pointed out an important thing. Elon Musk is not actually today, and hasn't been for some time, in charge of the daily operations at Boca Chica. Gwynne Shotwell is the chief operating officer of Star Trek, and some over a year ago he
Of the
appointed
Starship.
of the Starship. I'm sorry, and right, okay, and she's not in charge of Twitter. Oh, good.
That's correct. That's correct. She's not, but she is in charge of the
Of Boca
Starship.
Chica and Starship operations. And there's thousands of people, from the people who take care of the cleanup, to rocket engineers who are responsible for building and the whole Starship operation at Boca Chica. But Gwen Shotwell, she's really good. And that's why she's in charge of the day-to-day operations, and she's not distracted by anything else, fortunately. So let's hear it for her and the entire team down there that's responsible for getting Starship in orbit, and within a decade, I'm convinced, to Mars with humans as explorers, settlers. That's it.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else? SpaceX brochure there, Bill. What's that about?
Oh, I'm still collecting hundreds of things. These are from holiday parties. These are koozies, but they also had Starship koozies and so forth. But
Okay.
there's Starlink, but we won't need Starlink on Mars right away. But
Not right away, but do you notice that everything that Elon Musk is doing, from the Boring Company to the solar panel, Solar City, to Tesla, to the Starship, it's all directed toward Mars. And everything that he's doing now has its use directly related to Mars. Because, as you may know, and I've shared before, the last statement in his mission statement is to create a self-sustaining human civilization on Mars. And he makes no bones about it. The reason he formed SpaceX is to go to
not
Mars.
so hidden agenda.
Yeah. So, all right, let me jump in anytime, even if you're stepping on my words. This is the book. This is the book. This is the world, the new world on Mars. What can we create on the red planet, by Dr. Robert Zubrin. I got this in the mail last week, and Robert wrote me a nice note in there about what we're doing with the Ambassador Society. I thought that was very thoughtful of him. I have not read the whole book yet, but I have to say that just about anything you need as a Mars Society ambassador, just about anything you need to make your presentation, rests in this book. So you don't have to go scrambling for information. He talks about, well, let me just open it up real quickly here. he talks about what can we create on Mars, a brief history of Mars, how to get to Mars, creating resources on Mars, getting rich on Mars, transportation on Mars, cities on Mars. My goodness, we've given awards and contests on creating cities on Mars. I've been at those conventions, and it's fabulous to see what people come up with. Um, uh, Liberty on Mars, the grand engine of invention, transforming Mars, a case for all nations, talking about democracy, talking about the Bill of Rights, what we can expect on Mars and what should we be getting on Mars, how we're treating people on Mars. It's amazing. It's a fabulous book. One of the things I liked in here, among many, and I've read a little bit of this, why we will get asteroid trade monopoly. My goodness, asteroid trade monopoly. Well, first of all, the asteroid belt is between Mars and Jupiter, not between Earth and Mars. And there is, in a little book called How We'll Live on Mars by Stephen Petranek, excellent speaker, by the way. And that's not to be confused with How We'll Live on Mars with How to Live on Mars by Robert Zubrin. Now, no, I don't know if you read this book, but it's not Dr. Robert Zubrin, it's by Robert Zubrin. And in order to find out what I'm really talking about, you need to read this book. It's really clever. Anyway, Petranek says that between Mars and Jupiter, there are enough precious metals and materials to provide each person on our planet, all 8.5 billion of them, with at least $100 billion each. We have an enormous supply of materials between Mars and Jupiter. Another thing that Elon talks about that I mentioned earlier, switching from Petranek to Elon, is his objective is to get 1 million people on Mars. And MTI, Mars Technology Institute, will be part of that process of actually getting people there and methods to do so. But people say, well, you know, the average person cannot go to Mars because it's too costly. Well, I beg to differ with you. Not only is the price going to be coming down because of our process of rocketry and transportation costs coming down and knowledge that we're sharing, but the average individual who goes there, anyone who goes there, is probably going to be there for at least 1.5 years because of the cycle of going and getting back. So 1.5 years, it's about what it would take. And the average person in today's world, if you're going to go there that long, you could sell your home and you would have enough to go to Mars. That's the concept, to get it to the price of the average home. Well, of course, out here in California, homes are up a little bit more than maybe in some other parts of the country. But $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 is not an unusual price for the home out here in California. So that would give you ample dollars and cents to go to Mars and actually be significant. People often ask me, do I really want to go to Mars? Would I go to Mars? I would go to Mars if I could be of some value, of significance. That's probably the only reason to go, not just to go. Now, Elon Musk says, I want to die on Mars. He says, just not on impact. That's all. So what are your thoughts about that? Anyone, give me some thoughts you have about going to Mars and the concept of dollars and cents or anything that I've been talking about. I'll open the mics to, or you can open it yourself, to Dean, to Thorsten, to Ginger, John Ratliff. We haven't heard from you lately. So any thoughts on that? Oh, Dean. Okay, go right. Dean Arvidsson is a professor, or was, he just recently retired, of the LA City College on physics and astronomy. And he's, to my benefit, he lives right up here in the high desert above Palm Springs. If I stood tall on a tree, I could probably see his home. So, all right, Dean, what are you thinking?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I just had a quick comment. What would keep me from going to Mars is the motion sickness. I think that may be not an uncommon issue. And I don't know if anybody is in either the Mars Technology Institute or any place else would be trying to work on that issue. But apparently, when the astronauts go up into space, right? When you're in a weightless environment, it takes some time to adjust, first of all. And I don't know all the details, but I think it's a bit of it can be a bit of an issue. And I don't like to go on airplanes. I mean, I can do it, but the Dramamine helps. And anyway, I don't know, just throwing that out. But that actually is a little bit of a potential issue for traveling tomorrow. I mean, in other words, when I heard you say it, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, is that I wouldn't be able to make that trip for that reason. It can be quite a serious condition, the motion sickness.
Yeah, sure. There will be those who will go and those who will not go. There will be those who want to stay and those who will want to hop on one of the rockets. They're ready to go back, fully stocked for their trip back for 6 or 7 months on the trip. So yeah, and it's good to know our own limitations, and that's just fine. Who else has a thought along similar lines or unsimilar lines? Dean, you had a comment about the asteroid belt?
Well, I don't know much about it, but I remember hearing some 6, 8 years ago, there was a group of people, including Elon Musk and the movie producer James Cameron and some other very innovative thinkers and futuristic thinkers, talking about mining the asteroids. And the one detail I remember learning is that the precious metals that we find here on Earth are also in those asteroids. And here on Earth, the precious metals have sunk into the ground because of gravity. And so we have to dig them out of the ground here. And it has some expense to it, to mining the metals here on Earth. Whereas the asteroids being much smaller, the gravity is much less, and the precious metals are on the surface, or much easier to access the heavy metals and the precious metals on these asteroids. So even though the asteroids are way out in space, there are some advantages to building some machines that could mine them and collect these precious metals. And it may at some point become cost effective to undertake that project. Particularly, if you build the machines to do the mining and you can mine multiple asteroids, and all of a sudden we've collected, lots and lots of these precious metals. Here on Earth, they're they're difficult to get, and we're running out of them.
Yes.
And anyway, just a little bit. I don't know that much about the issue, but a little bit of what I've heard about that issue.
I guess that's one of the reasons that Elon Musk created the Boring Company, and not just to get from one end of Los Angeles to the other, from Hawthorne, say, to someplace else underneath the airport, which I guess he did go under the airport, and the one in Vegas. Not only to create lava tubes on Mars, which already basically exist, but for the asteroids. And what you're saying is the mining may not be as big of a thing as just collecting, because they're right on the surface in most cases.
That's my understanding. It would be good to double check that, but I remember hearing those types of details.
Yeah.
And yeah, interesting. That could be, Elon Musk, I'm sure, is aware of how this all works. And if he is, his boring company could well be, that could have been part of his thinking in creating that boring company.
Thanks for adding that insight, Dean. I appreciate it. Ed, go ahead. Ed, and then Bill.
Yeah. The only problem I have, I kind of understand where Dean's coming from with going to Mars, is the flying part. If I could get there without flying, I'd be interested. But then again, I'd have to take a loan out on our home, okay? Because what if after spending a year and a half there, I say, well, that was interesting and nice, but I want to go back home. So
Yeah.
I would take I'd have to go to the bank and get a good sizable loan on the home, so I don't have to pitch a tent when I get back to Earth.
Yeah.
So you got to take that into consideration. You might say it was great, but now, this is our home planet, and even if we spend most of our life on Mars or somewhere else, we'll at least want to come back and visit Earth occasionally, I think.
That's likely, but probably not the most probable avenue of thought to go on,
Yeah.
Ed, only because I believe the first wave of people who will go will be going with the concept in their
Well, they're
minds.
explorers. They're
They're
explorers.
going, and they'll probably consider being there for a while,
Oh yeah, but
if not forever. So
yeah.
yeah, Bill, what did you have to say
Oh,
about that?
Well, just a couple of things that I believe NASA's done a huge amount of research of anti-nausea issues. They can't always tell before you launch which astronauts will have an issue, but it usually clears up in a few days, and they've done a lot of research. I haven't heard people talk about what maybe the second wave, not colonists, but people, maybe rich tourists, maybe super competent consultants might go to Mars to do something and then come back in the first wave. But a business model that some of the first few dozen, maybe 100 visitors to Mars, they can come back and make bank on the lecture circuit. It's what Buzz did. Buzz is a brilliant guy, but he made a lot more money on the lecture circuit and appearance fees than anything else. So
Yes.
that would be my business model. Charge
Yeah.
$300 for autographs and 10,000 for an appearance at Yuri's night.
Sounds good to me. Of course, you can all do it easier with your ambassador patch. And remember, you can suggest to your friends something like, have you ever thought about becoming a Mars Society ambassador? We're looking for right people who can share the message. I think that's critical. So yeah, thank you for that. All right, well, let's look at it this way. If we're going to grow as a civilization, or as the Mars Society, or as an ambassador, we're going to be looking for certain elements that'll make that road, that trip, that path just a little more easy to handle. And I think Arushi put it correctly when she said, we need to learn vicariously. She alluded to that. We learn from other people. Your experience is valuable, but sharing your experience is even more valuable. And this is a philosophy by which we can all grow and we can benefit from. Francis Bacon put it this way. He said, knowledge is power, and it can pave the way for an existence of an entirely new experience in humanity. So remember what we're doing here. As a group of ambassadors, we are stepping forward sharing our knowledge with other people. And when you're doing that, be a good listener at a party, at a convention where you're speaking. If you're doing a virtual program, do your best to be a good listener, because that's where you're going to learn what the audience is receptive to. I thank you for being here today. We've covered a lot of areas. Again, I'm going to mention this. If you can at all get your hands on this book, it's the only one you're going to need. I've got a few books out there too, but this one is all you need to study and pick up some jewels of information to create your own Mars presentation and talk about what we're actually doing to get there, to live there, and to enjoy the process. So thanks for listening. Thank you all for being here. You're my staple crew. I appreciate all of you dearly. Yes, live long and prosper, Ed. That's true. And on to Mars. Until next month.